Hey, this is Zachlog the Great, and I am here tonight with my friend Nate.
Hello.
And with Chris.
Hello.
And we are getting together tonight to talk about Robert Louis Stevenson's poem, In Memoriam F.A.S. Nate has kindly volunteered to read that for us tonight. Before we get to that, I did want to make one note. I just wanted to thank my Subscribestar $5 a month supporters, which is Ann H, JB14, and DeadMessenger. I just wanted to put a note in there, get a thank you in there in the video. And having said that, let me get the oh wait, that's not gonna work. Having said that, there we go. Let me get the poem up on the screen, and we will, and Nate will read this for us. So when you are ready.
I don't see it yet. I'm trying to wait till I can see it on screen before I start reading it. I have it up on my computer here, but
Chris,
I can see it.
You can see it. All right, good. Then I'll assume everyone else can. In Memoriam F.A.S. Robert Louis Stevenson. Yet, O stricken heart, remember, oh remember, how of human days he lived the better part. April came to bloom, and never dim December breathed its killing chills upon the head or heart. Doomed to know not winter, only spring, a being, trod the flowery April blithely for a while, took his fill of music, joy of thought and seeing, came and stayed and went, nor ever ceased to smile. Came and stayed and went, now when all is finished, you alone have crossed the melancholy stream. Yours the pang, but his, oh his, the undiminished, undecaying gladness, undeparted dream. All that life contains of torture, toil, and treason, shame, dishonor, death, to him were but a name. Here, a boy, he dwelt through all the singing season, and ere the day of sorrow departed, as he came. Davos, 1881.
Okay, and let me. So, Chris, since Nate read for us, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Okay. Well, my first thoughts were that, I understand what they're going for, but also it's like I don't relate to this at all personally, because for me, like, my childhood was actually pretty terrible. So I'm like, if I would have died when I was like 18 or something, like, that would have been really bad. Like, all the things that I like enjoy about life and stuff came after that. But I do understand where they're coming from. But for me, it was like, just like, wait a second, this is how normal people think.
I actually remember not long ago I listened to a conversation Stefan Molyneux had with someone, and as usual, like, he went into their childhood history, and he talked about, like, having experienced pretty awful treatment from parents and step parents. It's like, if you had the choice and you were told this is going to be your life and you're only going to make it to 16, like, and you were able to look out and see that, would you have done it? She's like, no. I'm not. I don't know if I would say it was the best. I would say it wasn't bad. like, in the first stages of my life, I have reached the point, myself. I don't look it, I'm aware, but where various joints are starting to consistently creak and complain. So that's not fantastic. But it's I like yeah, like, the part, all that life contains of torture, toil, and treason, shame, dishonor, death, to him were but a name. Like, my my childhood up until 18, actually, that would pretty well fit for me. I don't think I'd really seen that much of real pain, real suffering before then. Not to say everything was perfect, but well, honestly, I wouldn't. I would say I'm pretty lucky. I haven't seen that much of real pain and real suffering since, although some more.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like this hit harder before we had our little, green room discussion and talked about the actual age of old Foxtrot here. Because honestly, I was reading this as like, a 5 or 6 year old kid, not, an 18-year-old young man. Yeah, I mean, it's sad and it's tragic to have him cut down, just as he reaches, sort of the ascent to manhood. But I don't know. I feel like he would have known some of these things and he would have been able to experience and grow. It's a shame he didn't get to reach his, the fullness of his stature and become fully who he was going to be. But I mean, I know he felt these things. He did start to feel some of these things. I feel like you can really only say this kind of thing about a very small child. And so, I mean, all respect to Stevenson, he's clearly very upset about this death, but he's infantilizing the young man. I feel like he's kind of doing him a disservice with that.
Well, I think also there is like this poetic thing about people that die young, because I mean, you get it with like musicians and stuff too, where it's not so much like, it's this idea that they had so much ahead of them, there was so much potential, where whatever they've achieved before then, like, it almost makes it hit you harder. Oh, what could they have achieved beyond this if they would have had a little more time?
Well, and Robert Louis Stevenson himself did not. I mean, he didn't die in childhood in any sense, but he did not have a full lifespan either. I want to say he died at age 44. And I might be off, but if I'm off by only a couple of years. So that's, I'm not too far distant from that myself. So I'm like, wow, that's not that old. But what was so I knew Robert from the initials F.A.S, the last initial S. Your first guess is this was someone Stevenson, and you would think his son. But again, unless I misread the biography, Robert Louis Stevenson actually did not have any children of his own. But this was on the death of a friend, the son of some of his friends at age 18. Also, and thank you, Chris, because I did not. Chris was able to, get some of the deduce who or discover who F.A.S. was, and also the couple had two sons, and the other one died a few years earlier, and then Francis Sitwell, died in 1881. And regardless of the person's age, like both of your kids, dying, while you're still alive. That's a hard punch.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's kind of what the poem is trying to deal with, because it's like, yet, oh stricken heart, remember, oh remember, how of human days he lived the better part. It's like it's kind of trying to take that pain and be like, okay, I'm experiencing a pain that he'll never have to deal with. I think a good bit of it is just trying to put it in the most positive light as possible.
Honestly, I think that's one of the most tragic things about it, is that all you can say is, well, he didn't have to hurt much. But honestly, if you got to speak a poem over the death of somebody, I want to go out with, like, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli standing over my arrow-riddled corpse, like make extemporaneous poetry about how much of a hard ass I was. Like, I want to be, I want there to be more to say than, well, hey, at least he didn't. I want a person to be able to experience pain and treachery and sadness and hurt and challenge, and to rise above it and become someone better. Not just that they died, this lump of clay, but that they were forged into something, that they were, like I said, they rose up, they grew, they developed, they conquered, and then died. And maybe died in the act of conquering. I don't know. But that there's more to say about them than, well, at least they got to miss all the hard parts. Because the hard parts are the important parts.
Well, and it's that's actually something I forget what brought this up recently, because I was thinking about this in another context entirely recently. But like, oh no. Okay, it was because I was watching Attack on Titan. Okay, that anyway, but that's another story. But I think that is, one thing, Christianity does well, that, the, modern, post-Christian anti-philosophy, like, it's not even a philosophy, it's just this weird conglomeration of ideas that don't fit very well together. But like, that's one thing Christianity does well, that, those without Christianity, they don't seem to have a plan for. And that is that, like, okay, there's going to be suffering in life. There's going to be pain. You're going to experience, loss and, frustration, and things aren't going to make sense. And Christianity has a way to make to make a meaning out of that, to turn that into something valuable. And there's a phrase I heard someone use. Well, actually, someone was talking to me about something I was going through, and he said, some sufferings are united to the sufferings of Christ, to redeem the world. And it's like, if you are experiencing these kind of things, and you bear them in the right spirit, you can, join in his work in some way of making the world what it ought to be. And some people would say that's kind of just, moonshine, putting a pretty face on things. But it's an answer. It's some way to address this. Like, why am I going through this? What does all this mean? And, like I said, the modern, the post-Christian worldview really doesn't have an answer. Like the suffering doesn't mean anything. There's no point to it. It's just happens and it's awful. And if you can do anything to avoid it, you darn well better do that, no matter who it hurts. So anyway, I've reached the end of my rant on that. If one of you would like to step in.
Well, so this is more going off of what Nate was talking about, but I don't think this is necessarily what Stevenson was doing. But there is a more modern tendency to really emphasize the virtues of youth, to just sort of put youth itself on a pedestal, like everybody wants to look young, where there is a more sort of old school thing where what's respected isn't youth, it's wisdom, it's age, it's experience. Whereas now we just kind of want to be young at all costs. And again, I don't think that's necessarily what Stevenson is doing here. But again, he is looking at someone who died young and just trying to find the best way to look at it. But like the virtues of it, like Nate said, like it hasn't been tempered like through the hard things in life to become something better. So it's like whenever you look at like again, like the clay before it's been formed, you can imagine its potential, but it hasn't been made anything yet. And I think that's what Stevenson is sort of mourning. But I think today we sort of have this pull to just idealize the potential just for what it is, without actually appreciating like a finished product that's actually useful.
Well, and the other thing with that is, when you're young, up through basically shortly after, Francis died, you have, all kinds of potential. You can go just about anywhere, and your life can do all kinds of things. But then as you grow older, like, you basically have to pick something. You have to pick one thing, and you have to lose potential and you have to lose wide potential and become one specific thing. And it is kind of, frustrating to deal with that, especially if you didn't really plan that so much. If it just, because I think for a lot of people it just kind of happens, and that's not the necessarily what you wanted it to be. But I was also going to say, what was this? Actually reminds me a little bit of another poem I've done, or at least part of another poem I've done, which is Ben Jonson, On My First Son. And because the middle part of that, he says, why will man lament the state he should envy? To have, and it's on the death of his son at 7 years old. And why will man lament the state he should envy? To have so soon scaped worlds and flesh's rage, and if no other misery, yet age. And it's that same thing. It's like, well, the world's just going to beat the crap out of you for a while. So, at least he didn't have that. And why should I mourn him? He got lucky. He got out of it. And it's also, like, I think in both of them, there's pretty obviously this, it's not just rationalization. Like the person, the author is fully aware this is a rationalization and it's not working very well. Nate?
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. But what you were saying about potential earlier, all this unshaped potential, and how eventually you harden up into reality, and you look around and decide you realize that a lot of that potential is gone. Yeah, you've spent it. That's good. I hope you spent it well. Okay, look, unused potential is like unfired ammo on a battlefield. They're not paying you to bring that back, and dying with a lot of potential means you wasted your life. Okay? Take your potential and as dear youth, take all of that potential you have. Apply your heart to wisdom so that you can make good ideas, good decisions about how to spend that potential and send it forth into concrete reality and build on that to become something excellent. And you will look back one day when you're a bit more grizzled and you got a few more scuffs and dings and look back and say, I spent my potential well. And I did the thing that I could do excellently. And so you don't regret all the lost potential. And you can help the people that come after you to put their potential where it would be best used. So yeah, no, you have all this wide potential when you're young, and that's wonderful. If you still have it when you're old, you're a failure. Put them points in some skills and get moving. So read your Proverbs, learn wisdom, and the basic maxims of how you should be. Then read Ecclesiastes and realize sometimes it ain't going to work. Then read Job and feel a little bit better about things when the murky fist of life comes flying out of the darkness and cow kills you a couple of times. And then you have to get back up, kind of put things back together and move on.
Yeah, it's well, and the other thing about this poem, and part of the reason I chose this is because like there's several basic themes that you have that like just encompass human life, and that everyone is going to face in some way at some point. And there's death, there's romance, there's God, and hopefully there's family. And like this faces up pretty squarely to one of those. And it's give me a second. It's not fun to do it, but I think it is important. I think it matters. Has real value. Once in a while to face up to. There's this guy, the Grim Reaper. Tall guy, black cloak, tends to carry around a scythe, and one day he's gonna come for me. And what am I doing before that point? And this is another. I think this kind of poem is a valuable reminder on that front as well.
Well, and I also think one thing to keep in mind is like whenever you're dealing with like Western poetry, there is the assumption that there is life after this that doesn't have torture, toil, treason, shame, dishonor, and death. So it's not necessarily that they will never experience the greater things that come with maturity. Like they may still experience those things, but in a perfect body, in a world where it doesn't have the downsides. So there would be that sort of underlying assumption, but also like again, it's just sort of this is a bad situation. Like let's just put it in the best light we can. Like even if everybody knows like it doesn't work, there's still something very human in sort of going through the motions.
And it is, and like I said about the Ben Jonson poem as well, it's fascinating, and I haven't picked this apart well enough to see what he does where. That like I said, at the same time, within the poem, you can see he is kind of rationalizing, and also you can see it isn't working, and like all of that is right there. Like there's no big dramatic moments in this poem. There's no grand event, but there's just huge amounts of emotion. Just you can feel this pain, this what the hell is going on? Why why did it have to go this way? Even as he's trying to say, well, it's not that bad. It's not. Let's try and find the bright side. And kind of like Nate said, like, I guess the bright side is that he didn't suffer that much. That's not much of a bright side.
Yeah, well, it's like any time you go to a funeral, and it's like, okay, the the deceased relatives, like, you have to tell them something, like you have to give them some sort of condolences, because that's what you do. But you're also aware there is nothing you can say that will make it all right. But at the same time, like whenever you've lost somebody who is important to you, just having the people say anything does in itself give a tiny bit of comfort.
Yeah. Well, and it's...
I think the third stanza really points to what Sean is saying, too, because came and stayed and went, now when all is finished, you alone have crossed the melancholy stream. Yours the pang, but his, oh his, the undiminished, undecaying gladness, undeparted dream. It shows right there that, I'm saying all these things and, trying to, but yeah, I have crossed the melancholy stream. I am, I'm walking around wet-footed in this land and still sad. I'm still feeling the pang, but, he's off somewhere better.
Well, and it's you were like Chris was saying, you have to when you meet these people, and you have to say something at the funeral, and it's a kind of a weird and frustrating thing for me. Like, I read a lot, I write a little bit, I am kind of entranced by words and what you can do with them, and then at the same time, like I when you come up against moments like that, it's like words, like the words just aren't going to do anything. Like it seems in like there's, when it comes to things that really matter, like the words don't get you there, and so all I can
trying to make something like that better through something you say, you got the wrong objective. You're attacking the wrong point. You're not going to make it better. This is an irrevocable fact that this person has died. But
yeah,
you do the way you can do it, and the what you say, you just say something. You just bring something out that is pleasant to dwell on about the person, that speaks to their character or, the meaning that their life held. And it's like, hey, this person, basically you highlight that this person did something with the potential they were given. I had a friend of mine, his mom died. I'm at the funeral, and, I'm kind of talking to his dad. and I see him over there, passing by him. I said, "Hey, we talked about our younger days, or y'all did earlier. My childhood was fantastic. We were poor as hell, but we were all happy, and it was great. And then sort of my family and the extended family started falling apart. So my sort of youth was turbulent. And so there were some really rough times, but I stopped by my friend's dad and I said, "Hey, look, I told him hello. I gave him a hug and said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry she didn't make it, but I wanted you to know." I told her that I wanted to know that sorry, this was within the last year, so kind of hit me there. I said that I wanted him to know that his wife, had always been very kind, would always, kind of let me hang out with them sometimes, and that I always knew that even if things were rough at home, I had a place filled with love that I could be. And so it was she made kind of a home away from home for me. And so, yeah, she's gone. She's fully spent. But that's what she did with what she was given in life. And it made a big difference. And so, that's the way I think you go about it. You don't try and make it better. You just, like I said, you point out that they were well spent on this existence and that they weren't wasted.
Yeah, and like for me, I like a few years ago, I had a friend who, you know, for one thing, this was someone who is some distance away, so I was only interacting with this through Facebook. But she had a miscarriage, and it was like her third miscarriage with no children yet who made it. And like I said, I love to write, I love words, I love what words can do. And I just said, I wish I knew what else to say. All I have is I'm so sorry, and I can't, like, I couldn't, there's nothing else, like. And I will also say that there's that's actually another reason that I can't entirely say I like poems like this, that there is value in poems like this, because when someone else manages to put this kind of thing into words, then when you arrive at that moment yourself, if you have read this, if you have seen this, you have something to grab hold of and say, that right there, that's what it was. That's what I experienced. And not only is that what I experienced, I was not alone. Someone else has been where I am right now. And in those kind of moments, like just that knowledge, at an emotional level, at the level of where in at a kind of a soul deep level, that kind of knowledge matters. That, like I said, someone else has been where I am now, and then I am not alone, in this. But
Well, I know I'm within about a paragraph of my word limit for the day.
Well, and I do think it's interesting. Like normally we go way off topic and then we're like, okay, let's get back to the poem and we'll like pull out something from it. But this, even though we haven't like analyzed the words of the poem themselves, like pretty much everything we've said is on topic.
That's true. We haven't pulled out the immortal line.
That too. There's
Now I almost have to have an off-topic discussion just to fulfill, internet law.
There's actually here. Sorry, I'm trying to find. There it is. Sorry, I was trying to find a story by G.K. Chesterton because there's a line. If I can find it. If I can find it, there's a line in here that's where is it? Oh, I can't find it.
Well, while you're looking, I'll just venture a guess that you're looking in The Man Who Was Thursday for the line, "No, sir, away. The secret of your trouser stretchers is known."
That is not it. I was actually looking for something on topic. Oh. Because there's it's a story about Father Brown, a humble country priest who also happens to be a superb amateur detective, although not quite from the angle of Sherlock Holmes. And the story takes place in this fancy hotel and restaurant, and okay, how did this little nobody end up there in the course of the story? And he's like, well, it turned out someone had died earlier that day, and it doesn't matter, like I think one of the staff or something, and it doesn't matter how how wealthy or poor you are. There is a that gentleman death is quite the equalizer. And but I can't.
No, you can og pretty effectively. You just did.
Yeah, but it's Chesterton, and he said it better, and I'm mangling it anyway. But
I offer you a grape in these trying times.
That too. Anyway, I'm looking at the poem right now to see if there's, I don't actually have that much to say about like specific wording or particular moments in this. It's basically more about the theme, the overall theme, which is what we've been talking about this entire time. And yeah, like I said, having a little bit more of the backstory that it was not just, this boy died young, but like, oh, they had 2 sons. Both of them died before age 18. Oh, God. I can't, I literally can't even think about that. Like, I cannot seriously contemplate that because, like, mentally looking in that direction is too painful. But so I think I've said most of what I wanted to say here. Nate, any last thoughts for you?
No, I'm spent.
Chris?
No, I think we covered everything.
Okay. Well, in that case, thank you both for joining me, and God be with you.
Also with you.
Have a good one.